It is not widely known that unlike street gangs that have sprung up recently, Japan's Yakuza have a long history. The Yakuza are also referred to as Gokudo, organized crime member, Boryokudan, violent group, Kyokaku, chivalrous man, and the original meaning of the word Yakuza is something or someone useless. Yakuza are broadly divided into two groups, Bakuto and Takiya. During the Edo period, gambling was considered a serious crime and was strictly controlled, but these individuals formed strong bonds among themselves, traveling from place to place, evading crackdowns. Eventually, from the mid-Edo period onward, groups of habitual gamblers, Bakudo, formed the foundation of what would become the modern Yakuza. On the other hand, Takiya were mainly composed of people who were considered to be of the lowest social class. The real term is derogatory, so we will not mention it here. During the Edo period, they earned income by setting up stalls, shows, and gambling events on temple and shrine precincts. The people considered part of the lowest social class included beggars, city sanitation workers, leather workers who processed things like armor, butchers, and executioners. The Takiya also formed groups of their own, eventually evolving into the modern Yakuza. Living outside the bounds of the law, they often resolved conflicts through violence. According to one theory, the foundations of the modern Yakuza organizational structure were established as far back as the late Muromachi period. The lifestyles of the kabuki-mono, said to have evolved from Machiyako and Hatamoto-yako and considered models for kabuki, are also regarded as a root of the modern Yakuza. In their world, there exists a unique set of rules far removed from those of ordinary society, separate from the control of the law, and they are said to live according to that code. This time, we will introduce 10 representative aspects of Yakuza culture. Perhaps the most well-known and iconic aspect of Yakuza culture, even among us foreigners, is Yubitsume. To apologize to the organization or take responsibility, a person cuts off the first joint of their pinky finger. This is done as punishment for violating group rules or making a serious mistake. This can be done to apologize to one's own boss or another organization. At such times, a higher-ranking member will say, "Bring the tools," and subordinates will bring a knife, cutting board, thread, and hammer. It is widely known that this was also practiced as a way of formally quitting the Yakuza profession, and the person receiving the severed finger is expected to accept the apology it represents. From the Edo period through the early Showa era, Yakuza commonly used Japanese swords and other bladed weapons. Cutting off the tip of the pinky weakened one's grip on a sword, directly reducing one's strength as a Yakuza. Even so, it served as a visible expression of sincere remorse. In recent years, it seems that this practice is becoming less common. As a side note, a surgeon I know once worked in a town where several Yakuza organizations had offices, and he told me that gang members would occasionally visit his clinic right after performing Yubitsume. In the Yakuza world, formal initiation involves a highly symbolic ritual known as Sakazukigoto, a ceremonial exchange of sake that establishes a hierarchical bond between two individuals. This bond is referred to as the Oyabun-Kobun relationship, meaning parent and child. It creates an unbreakable structure of authority and obedience, independent of blood ties. The new member, or Kobun, pledges absolute loyalty to the Oyabun. As the saying goes, if the Oyabun says a black crow is white, then it is white. Though commonly called Sakazukigoto, the form and etiquette of the ceremony differ depending on whether the group has origins in Bakuto, gamblers, or Takiya, street vendors. Bakuto-style Yakuza, 3 scrolls are hung on the right side: Hachiman Daibosatsu, the deity of war, Amaterasu Omikami, the sun goddess, and Kasuga Daimyojin, the god of protection. The reason for displaying such scrolls in a sacred cup ceremony is due to the strong faith and powerful figures within the Yakuza society. Even though the Oyabun, boss, is expected to be a powerful figure, they place these deities above them to borrow their power. In Takiya-style Yakuza groups, the 3 scrolls displayed are the present emperor, Amaterasu Omikami, and Shino Emperor. The Shino Emperor, the protector deity of takiya groups, is considered a legendary figure from ancient China, associated with creation and agriculture. He is believed to have taught the people about farming, silkworm breeding, medicinal plants, and even invented a 5-stringed musical instrument and promoted commerce by establishing markets. It is for these reasons that he is revered as the guardian deity of takiya Yakuza. This reflects their commercial and nomadic roots. The altar is further adorned with sacred sake marked with official seals, offerings, a 3-tiered presentation stand, sanpo, a single ceremonial sake cup, 3 mounds of purifying salt, and 2 red sea bream fish placed back to back. One fish is always positioned lower, signifying the new member's subordinate status to the oyabun, reinforcing that they are never to be on equal footing. A designated witness instructs the kobun on expected behavior and conduct. Upon completing the exchange of sake, the new member is officially authorized to use the group's name, such as XX-gumi, on formal materials. From this moment forward, they are bound by strict codes of loyalty and cannot leave the organization without permission. The ritual follows strict traditional customs. All participants are required to wear formal attire such as haori and hakama, and personal accessories like wristwatches or rings are prohibited. This scene is not for Oyako Sakazuki, but the atmosphere is almost the same. One of the historical figures often cited as a predecessor of the modern Yakuza, Banzuin Chobei, upheld the ideal that true town gangsters, what we would now call Yakuza, should protect the weak and stand against the strong. This way of thinking is rooted in the Chinese concept of ninkyu, chivalry, and those who lived by this code were called kyukaku. They were viewed with a certain respect by the general public. Inspired by the lives of such individuals, lawless men who were willing to die for these ideals gathered and formed groups. Traditionalist, orthodox Yakuza who value heritage are said to refrain from harming ordinary members of society, katagi, but in modern times, this moral code has largely faded. Threats and extortion are rampant, although it is still rare for them to randomly target or use violence against uninvolved civilians over petty matters. Unlike tattoos from other countries, designs known as Wabori, traditional Japanese tattoos favored by Edo period Yakuza, firefighters, and fishermen, are preferred. Among the most favored are designs like the Karajishi Botan, Chinese lion and peony, symbolizing the king of flowers and the king of beasts, or the image of a koi swimming upstream, based on the Chinese legend that a carp becomes a dragon by climbing a waterfall. These motifs often carry meanings related to luck and perseverance. In Japanese society, tattoos are still widely shunned. Having tattoos can bring major restrictions, such as difficulty finding employment, challenges with marriage, and being denied entry to public baths, hotels, pools, and gyms. One major reason is the frequent public disturbances caused by tattooed gang members from the post-war era up through the 1980s, which became a significant social issue. Additionally, during the Edo period, aside from decorative tattoos worn by Yakuza, tattoos were also used to mark criminals, further contributing to their negative image. In recent years, awareness of the differences between traditional Japanese tattoos and Western-style tattoos has slowly begun to spread, but it's still difficult to say that they're accepted by mainstream society. In such a social climate, deliberately choosing to get a traditional Wabori tattoo is sometimes seen as a sign of one's resolve to separate from ordinary society and fully live the life of a Yakuza. When leaving an organization, there is a distinction between disownment, which may allow for later re-entry, and excommunication, which means a lifelong enemy. When someone is excommunicated, an excommunication letter is circulated to relevant parties, along with their position, facial photo, and tattoo images. They are completely prohibited from any further association, and are also excluded from other organizations. To associate with someone who has been excommunicated means to enter into a hostile relationship with the organization that issued the excommunication, which can even escalate into a major conflict. In the Yakuza world, which serves as a refuge for those unable to adapt to society, being excommunicated essentially means the social erasure of that individual. In Japan, there are areas in Tokyo, Kanagawa, and Osaka where people who have been excommunicated, as well as day laborers, live together. In the past, stepping into these areas would immediately reveal a shift in atmosphere, and it would be easy to identify them as such areas. However, today, the towns have changed significantly. Security has improved, and even foreign backpackers seeking budget accommodation now visit. There is a unique way of speaking in the Yakuza world that differs from general honorifics, and making mistakes in this language can be considered disrespectful. As time has passed, this culture has faded. This will be explained in more detail in the section on Jingi, the code of conduct. New members of the organization live in the office, where they take care of the boss's personal needs, handle various chores, answer the phone, and attend to visitors. Since they are bound to long hours and unable to earn an income, an allowance from the boss becomes their only source of income. If they break any of the organization's customs, they are immediately subjected to violent punishment, which is why it is said that most people leave after about half a year. Jingi wo kiru refers to the formal greeting performed in the Yakuza world to show respect and adhere to proper etiquette. Yakuza organizations have a nature of mutual assistance, where they would conduct illegal gambling operations and, before law enforcement could act, move from place to place. They would greet the local Yakuza organizations and receive food and lodging in return. When greeting, a unique expression is used. For example, I am name, from the organization name. Please excuse my presence is a typical phrase. This greeting demonstrates formal etiquette and shows respect to the other party. The greeting tends to be longer for Yakuza members of lower rank, while higher-ups, such as the head of a large organization known nationwide, only need to introduce themselves by name. Let's look at an example from a movie scene to illustrate this.
ご当家軒下の神器失礼ですがお控えくださって。
ありがとうございます。軒下の神器は失礼さんにございますが、手前控えさせていただきます。
早速ながらご当家三尺三寸借り受けまして家業を神器を発します。
手前当家の若い者でございます。どうぞお控えなさってください。
手前旅中のものでございます。ぜひともお兄さんからお控えくださって。
ありがとうございます。再三のお言葉、逆意とは心得ますが、手前これにて控えさせていただきます。
早速お控えくださってありがとうございます。手前粗骨者ゆえ神器前後間違えましたる説はまっぴらご容赦願います。向かいましたるお兄さんには初のお目見えと心得ます。手前小国は大日本帝国日光筑波東関東は吹き下ろし、野州は宇都宮でございます。家業を縁持ちまして身の片親と発しますは野州宇都宮に住まいを構えます十文字一家三代目を継承いたします坂本吉太郎に従います若い者でございます。姓は風間、名は重吉、家業昨今の駆け出し者でございます。以後万事万端よろしくお願いなんしてざっくばらんにお頼み申します。
ありがとうございます。ご丁寧なるお言葉申し遅れまして失礼さんにございます。手前当神津組四代目川田源之助に従います若い者、姓は江藤、名は正吉、家業未熟の駆け出し者、以後万事万端よろしくお頼み申します。
ありがとうございました。どうかお手を挙げなすって。
アンさんからお手を挙げなすって。
それでは困ります。
じゃあご一緒にお手を挙げなすって。ありがとうございました。
In the world of the Yakuza, it's customary for the lower-ranking person, the junior or underling, to greet the higher-ranking person, the boss or senior, first. In the world of Jingi, honor and duty, etiquette and hierarchy are absolute. By greeting first, one indicates, I am the junior. Having the junior step forward first is a way of showing respect to the other party. In this exchange, the traveler and the attender are politely insisting that they themselves go first in the greeting order to determine who holds the lower position. In other words, messing up the order of Jingi can damage the reputation or standing of one's organization, so the order of greetings is extremely important. Territory is also called shima. If another organization intervenes, it can sometimes escalate into a major conflict. In commercial areas such as busy shopping districts, there are places where those doing business must pay Mikajime, protection money, to the organization controlling the territory. However, Mikajime is illegal, and in the case of restaurants, it is typically disguised as the purchase of items such as towels or New Year's decorations. The rumor that the more prominent a Yakuza is, the more humble they tend to be is often heard. However, when I worked as a server in a restaurant located in an area with many Yakuza offices, the boss of a certain organization frequently came to eat there. He was a very pleasant person. He was always smiling, and even when the food was delayed, he never complained. Though he appeared to be an elderly man, no different from an ordinary person, his entourage of 5 or 6 large men in black suits immediately gave away that he was from the underworld. He did not intimidate other customers, and, being mindful not to cause trouble for the restaurant, he would consciously sit at a discreet, less noticeable table, quickly finish his meal, and leave. Now that I think about it, maybe that was the behavior of a chivalrous man. However, one day during business hours at a restaurant across the street, someone sprayed a fire extinguisher all over the establishment, halting business. I later heard that the restaurant had not been paying Mikajime, which led the boss's organization to target and attack the place. This story is from about 20 years ago. Thank you for watching the video to the end. If you like it and subscribe, it will be a great encouragement. Japan B is a channel that randomly shares information about lesser-known aspects of Japanese culture, spanning across various genres.